We have some news from the NHL today regarding some waiver wire activity. We have more activity which could see players be claimed as early as tomorrow. Plus, we have some updates on some of the young stars vying for the Canadian Olympic team. Several other injury updates as well. It sounds like Leafs goalie Anthony Stolarz will be out longer than initially thought. And we have some players returning to their lineup and making their NHL debuts tonight. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some news from the NHL. Some of it was, well, I guess it would have been breaking news a couple of hours ago. A little late getting this out, but waiver wire activity here today. We have 2 new players on waivers. There was nobody from yesterday, so we didn't have to wait and see if anybody was getting claimed or anything like that. But the St. Louis Blues have Alex Texier on waivers today. It's an interesting player. He's only got 1 assist in 8 games this year. He's making $2.1 million. It's on an expiring contract, so after this year he's going to be a unrestricted free agent. So he's not locked up long term, but it is a lot of money for an underperforming player. I mean, Texier is somebody who's known to have good speed. He's 2 years removed from having a 30-point season. It wasn't long ago. He was kind of looked upon as being someone who could play middle six, bottom six, and was a pretty reliable player for the Blue Jackets. Hasn't really worked out the greatest for him in St. Louis. So we will see what happens. Beobviously, there's some speculation that a team like Montreal is interested, but again, no guarantee. I mean, obviously, we saw Johnny Beecher from the Bruins go on waivers just a few days ago, and there was some speculation that a couple of teams like Montreal, Vancouver were interested, and Calgary ended up putting in a claim, and they were bottom of the standings at the time, so that they got their guy, and the other teams never really had a chance. So obviously this could happen in a situation like that as well. But at the same time, it's based on the contract. It wouldn't be shocking to me if Texier ends up clearing. Now, according to Elliotte Friedman, this is not unconditional waivers for the purpose of termination here. This is just for him to be reassigned to the minors, but there is some talk, according to Elliotte, that if he is not picked up by another team, that they might go down the road of unconditional waivers for contract termination, making him a free agent, and then he could re-sign with another team right away. Obviously, it would have to be less money, but it would get him back to playing hopefully more regularly in the NHL on a more favorable contract. So we'll see what happens here. But he's had points in his career where he's been a useful player. He's only 26, so there's still a possibility that he might be able to prolong his career here and find a new home somewhere else. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Also on waivers today, the Buffalo Sabres have Mason Geertsen, a 30-year-old, 6'4", 230-pound winger/defenseman, is in year 1 of 2 on his contract with league minimum $775,000. So not a lot of money, but there is another year attached to it. He's appeared in 5 games for the Sabres this year, picked up 0 points and has 12 penalty minutes. If you take a look at Geertsen's history here and what he's been known for, not exactly somebody you rely on for offense. So, I mean, typically he's, the physical kind of play, racks up a lot of PIMs. So, you never know. He could get picked up. He does certainly have the size and physicality, but depends on what teams are looking for out there. I think there's a pretty good chance he clears and they can reassign him to their AHL affiliate. Now, as I mentioned as well, we also learned today that one of Canada's top young rising stars is definitely on their radar and at least under consideration for their 2026 men's Olympic team. Now, no guarantee he gets to go, but first overall pick from 2025, Islanders phenom Matthew Schaefer is definitely in the mix. So we know that based on reporting from Elliotte Friedman, and I believe the player himself has even confirmed this as well. But right now, to be eligible for the Olympic team, the teams have a longer list, much longer than what they're actually going to go with, right? We know that Canada, US, other countries, they had started with a list of at least 40, 45 players or more. It was a really long list. And I think some of them might have even expanded it beyond that as well. But to go to the Olympics, you have to go through drug testing. So that usually starts well ahead. So players that are, they have to go through that now to be eligible to go here in a couple months. So Schaefer is in that protocol. So we know that Canada's at least considering him. I think the way he's played, they definitely have to consider it. I mean, he's been so good. Even if he doesn't get a big role, even if he ends up being an extra and can soak in the experience, maybe play if there's an injury or something, I would be in favor of getting him to go and get the experience. But some other young former first overall picks very much in the mix as well, including Macklin Celebrini of the Sharks, Connor Bedard of the Blackhawks. Those two kids have played so good this year, and they've really, especially Bedard, really upped his game. Celebrini, I think, started his career a tad stronger than Bedard did, but again, he's upped his game as well. And they both seem to be, and we know that they know each other quite well. It almost seems like they're one-upping each other. Like, we saw the other night, Bedard had a hat trick, Celebrini had a hat trick, and they would have known what was going on based on the time differences between the games as well. So, it's friendly competition, but at the same time, like I said, they're both wanting the same thing here to get on that Olympic team, and both of their teams are more respectable and competitive this year because of their improved play as well. So it's certainly interesting to see. Canada's had a string of first overall picks in the NHL. A lot of them are obviously, all three of these guys are performing at a very high level here now, and it wouldn't be shocking if they're all somehow part of the plan. It wasn't long ago we were hearing reports that Canada felt between Celebrini and Bedard that they could probably only take one. I think they still want to have too much inexperience on the team, which is very fair. And at the same time, they have a lot of other older, strong players that they're not going to want to leave out. Like, you're not taking out, Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, like all those guys, right? There's a lot of good players. So it's not an easy team to make regardless of how strong you're playing. Even Mark Scheifele, who's obviously not in the same boat as being a young former first overall pick, obviously a veteran guy into his early 30s now, but, I think he was, a little disappointed to be left off the Four Nation team, and he's right up there in the top 5 in scoring as well. The top 5 scorers in the NHL right now are all Canadian-born players. McDavid, McKinnon, and these other 3 guys with Scheifele, Celebrini, and Bedard all vying for the Olympic team. So be curious to see how this all works out and how many of these young players get to taste the big stage and in coming up here in February. Now, as I mentioned, some injury updates. Toronto Maple Leafs goalie Anthony Stolarz has been out for a little bit. Craig Berube updated today that Stolarz has not been skating, and it turns out that his injury is worse than initially feared. He didn't really say that he was going to be out super long or anything. He didn't give a timeline, just that it's worse than expected. But we never really had a timeline. We never really knew what he was dealing with because they seem to be so vague on injury updates that it's not really clear. But that's still not good news. The fact that he's going to be out longer than expected, hopefully for their sake, Joseph Woll can play well and handle a heavy workload like Stolarz had to do when he wasn't there earlier. They've also activated Scotty Lawton. He'll be in the lineup tonight against the Blue Jackets. Nick Waugh has been officially added to injured reserve, retroactive to the 15th. We also got a couple of season debuts tonight and an NHL debut. Jake Neighbors has been activated. He's coming back tonight as well for the St. Louis Blues. The Lightning have Nick Paul making his season debut tonight as well. Of course, he's been out for an extended time here, missing close to 20 games. So Nick Paul is back in action for the Lightning tonight. And Ottawa Senators youngster Stephen Halliday has been called up and will make his debut tonight as they're beginning the first game of a 7-game road trip starting in Anaheim against the upstart, I almost called them the Mighty Ducks, but the Anaheim Ducks here, who have been mightily good this year, we'll say. They've really impressed and have greatly improved upon last year and a few recent years here. We knew they were eventually going to get to this point. It came quicker than I expected for them. But the Ducks have been good here for sure. I believe for the Ottawa Senators, they have a couple of guys that are dealing with injuries, and I think Ridley Gregg is going to be the guy who sits out tonight while he recovers. Doesn't sound like it's anything too serious, but something that's been nagging him. And Lars Eller was also a possibility, but they do have other forwards on the trip just in case as well. So we'll see what happens, but Halliday will get a chance to make his NHL debut tonight. He's been really good for them in the American Hockey League and certainly earned the opportunity. That'll be it for now. I'm back later recapping the rest of today's news and rumors around the entire NHL. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.